And that right there was the entire duration of my first life within the Dragon's Teeth DLC. And just so you know, the gameplay that you're watching is my first ever game of Dragon's Teeth DLC, and I'm actually playing Chain Link with 64 players, and you're about to realise that 64 player Chain Link really isn't a good game mode, because Chain Link essentially just turns whatever map you're playing into Operation Metro, and you'll literally just keep getting killed from round corners, and it's just not fun at all. And you're going to see as well within this gameplay that I learnt that the hard way, because there were just grenades flying absolutely everywhere. And the funny thing is that this is a no explosive server, although right here you'll see I throw a grenade. Well, yeah, I think it's in a second actually. Although it's one of those servers that they don't actually tell you anything about what the rules are before you go into the game. And so I threw it, and then yeah, I regretted my decision. But unfortunately, there is absolutely no skill involved when you're playing Chain Link 64 players on any of the maps within this DLC. So there's just no point in doing it at all. Like literally, just why? There's no point, because you'll keep getting killed from people from everywhere. There are too many angles. There are always people coming up behind you. There's nothing you can do about it. And you're going to see in this gameplay that I kind of get a bit destroyed, as does my team. And it wasn't the most fun game ever. But in this video, I'm going to kind of talk to you about what my personal first impressions are of this DLC. And right now, I'm going to tell you straight off the bat that they are very good impressions. And I'm actually really enjoying my time in it. There is one thing to note though. Although YouTubers are commonly comparing this DLC to the Aftermath DLC from Battlefield 3, this DLC is nowhere near as good as the Aftermath DLC from BF3. Aftermath DLC was by far the best map pack released for a first person shooter ever, in my opinion. And this map pack doesn't even come close. The maps are really solid, all of them are good, apart from one which we'll get onto later, but they are nowhere near on the standard of the Aftermath DLC. First we're going to talk about the maps, and seeing as we're playing Propaganda right now, we might as well talk about the Propaganda map. This is a very, very rectangular map. Everything is kind of designed in rectangles, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's a badly designed map. The map is beautiful, as you can see. It's kind of all snowy, there's snow everywhere, the particle effects are brilliant. And unless you're playing 64-man Chain Link, the way that all of the players will run around and the way that all of the choke points are designed is actually fantastic, and you'll have an absolutely brilliant time playing pretty much any game mode apart from the 64-man Chain Link on this map. As for Levolution, there isn't really much Levolution on this map. I don't really think you can class the huge train that goes through the centre of the map as being Levolution. It's not anything like Siege of Shanghai was, where you kind of destroy the tower, even though I wouldn't really consider it to be great Levolution, but it was possibly the biggest Levolution we've actually found on a map. But it is pretty cool, and the train will destroy absolutely anything that stands in its way, so even if you're a tank, you will be destroyed by this train, so you better watch out, because it will be coming for you. What really sets this map apart though from all the other maps is the actual destruction. Not necessarily Levolution, but proper destruction, like BFBC2 style. There is quite a large area on this map. It's actually the entire section of the area that you play on the TDM game mode, where actually you can destroy every single building there. It's proper destruction, like I really did want to see on the release of this game. And I really like that. I think it's an absolutely brilliant feature of the game, and it really does add to the immersion. One last thing to cover before I move on to the next map is the frame rate that you get on this map. As you can see, it's actually quite decent, you know. I'm getting around 50 to 60 frames per second. I have got it capped off at 60, so you're not going to see anything above 61. But overall, they're quite decent. I'm not getting huge stuttering issues. It's basically hovering around 60 to 55, so I've got no complaints there at all. It does show they have spent a while optimising the map perfectly. Now the next map to cover is Pearl Market. This map reminds me entirely of the map Flood Zone. Visually, it looks absolutely stunning. You are never going to see anything in Battlefield that looks anything quite like Pearl Harbor does. The amount of attention to detail on that map is absolutely ridiculous. There's so much debris everywhere, and most of it is destructible, i.e. the signs can be completely blown to smithereens, but it will affect your frame rate quite drastically. And I was getting between 40 to 50 frames per second on that map, which isn't really that great in my opinion. And so because of this, you might actually have to try to turn down your terrain decoration video setting if you do want to be constantly hitting that 60 frames per second. Gameplay wise, I really like it, but I know there are a lot of people who really despise that map for its gameplay. And I do understand why. There are far too many angles. You can be shot from pretty much anywhere. You really do have to be very aware of your surroundings, and you have to make sure that you kind of go around the outskirts of the city, make sure you clear off areas before you go into the middle, so that way you can kind of tell exactly where you should be. But personally, I actually quite like this style of gameplay. I quite like the entire way that it's quite tactical, and that you actually have to be very aware of your surroundings. You have to know what's going on at all times. Now, let's move on to the next map, which is Sunken Dragon. Personally, I despise this map, and I don't actually know why anyone would enjoy it. Visually, it looks absolutely stunning, as do all of the maps in this DLC, but the issue is with the gameplay. And I just want to point out, this was a no explosive server, and if you just saw the number of explosives that came around that corner, I don't really understand how you can class this as a no explosive server if that happens. And it's a perfect example as to why you should definitely not play 64-man chain link. Anyway, back to Sunken Dragon. The issue with this map is that the entire map is designed around the B flag. The map is so centered around this flag that there is actually no point in going anywhere else because there just simply isn't anyone there. The B flag is incredibly difficult to attack and really easy to defend, making it even more annoying as the only way you can actually enjoy yourself is by being slaughtered. One cool thing about the map is that you can raise or lower the water level of the huge lake that's within the middle, but I would make sure that you always keep the water level down because it's just ridiculous to attack if the water level's up, because if you don't know, the B flag is within the Sunken Dragon restaurant, which is right in the centre of the lake, which can only be attacked realistically through the lake. So if you keep the water level down, then it will be much easier to attack, but even so, because of the height level that's on the Sunken Dragon, it's ridiculous, due to the height advantage that the defenders have. Anyway, let's now move on to the next map, which is Lumpfini Gardens. Now, someone tell me how to pronounce that, because nobody knows, and people are saying it's different things on comment sections of different videos, saying, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. No one knows how to pronounce it, so just, please, if you're, like, Chinese or something, just tell me how you actually meant to say that. Now this map is actually really interesting. There is a huge Levolution moment that is comparable to Siege of Shanghai's huge tower falling down. By pressing a little button on the side of a panel, you can set a 10-second timer, I think it is, that will then detonate a huge water tower and it will come crashing down and destroy the train track in the middle, and it basically changes the entire map. It's really cool and it does actually affect the gameplay to a point where it makes it worse after the Levolution moment happens, which was a real issue with Siege of Shanghai. Visually, it is also stunning. It's really awesome, although the Levolution effect does kind of look a bit tacky, and it's not really up to the same standard as the other Levolution moments, but to be honest, I don't really think it matters that much, because after the 50 millionth time of it falling down, you won't even be bothered to look at it anymore, because it will just become a huge gimmick to you, so it doesn't really matter about how good the animations are at all, to be honest. The map does play really well, it's really fun to play as well, so I really like the map. I think it's definitely one of my favourite maps. I think it's one of the better ones out of the entire plethora of maps that we've had so far for Battlefield 4. So yeah, I think you should definitely give that map a try. Also included in Dragon's Teeth are a random few weapons, just random stuff like the Bulldog. I think that's a really good weapon. I've just unlocked that. I've really enjoyed using it. Then there's the MPS, which is a submachine gun, sorry, a PDW, whatever you want to call it. That's also very good. It's actually a really decent PDW, which is something we've really been lacking. Apart from the SR2, it's really the only PDW it's actually worth your time using. So yeah, you should definitely try and unlock that. Also available for you to unlock is the Macmillan CS5 sniper rifle, which is a bolt action rifle, and it has a built-in suppressor, which is kind of unlike most of the guns we've found within Battlefield, so that's quite a cool feature of it. And that's also a really good gun. I haven't unlocked it yet, but from what I've been told, it's pretty good. Also included are two pistols. The one is the Unica 6, which is a 6-shooter revolver type weapon, which is actually really good by looks of it. You know, word on the street says it's pretty awesome. And also obviously the Deagle, which is a very awesome weapon indeed. Controversially included in this DLC is also the ballistic shield, which basically a riot shield from Call of Duty. And it must be very well balanced, because I haven't seen a single person running around with it yet, which is extremely good, because I really do not want to see Call of Duty style trolling people running around trying to kill me with ballistic shields, because that will very, very much annoy me. Now the worst thing about this DLC is the Roar, which is basically it's an EOD bot with guns, so that's very overpowered, although it is a battle pickup, which means that you find it on the floor, so you can't just equip it and then go around killing people with it. Now the worst thing about it is that it's entirely risk-free. Basically, if you shoot and kill the Roar, then you don't kill the person inside it, so you just get a few free kills when you're in this Roar thing. And I know that it's just a complete gimmick. There was actually no real point in including in the game whatsoever. But yeah, overall, I really love this DLC. I think it's by far the best DLC that's been released for BF4, but unfortunately, it isn't on the standard of the Aftermath DLC for BF3. So anyway, I've been TSS, and I'll see you in the next one.